Why you lie and you cheat and you try to make a fool out of shit.
What's going on, ladies and gents, boys and girls, guardians of all ages? Joker back again once again, and today, people, today we're doing something kinda sorta different. We're doing a reaction video. Apparently, Myelin Games has, as the kids say, justifiably crashed out of Destiny.
And guess what? I don't give two shits about Destiny 2 anymore. The story is complete fucking trash. You've been playing the same game for 10 years and you're still playing the same game. And if you like it, great. You do you. But don't let the door hit you on the way out, Drew, you fucking dumb.
It just brings a tear to your eye. It's so beautiful. I mean, how dare he? Now, at the risk of, as the kids say, getting caught in 4K, glazing up my homie.
Brother,
This is kind of a big deal because Myelin Games has been an institution in the Destiny community for the better part of a decade. But honestly, I can't say that I blame him. From my understanding, not only did Bungie try to screw him over when it came to his contributions on the Destiny Grimoire books.
You can see that my very limited experience working with Bungie encapsulated some of the complaints from the IGN article. I experienced those 4 errors that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. The changing of work at the last minute. For me, that was a team member being added with only like 1 week to make changes after I'd been working on it for 3 months. My role was undermined. For me, they changed how I was credited in the anthology without asking me. In fact, if I didn't check the final PDF, I wouldn't have even known. I encountered the old guard within the first email. They established that they were at the beginning of Destiny 1 and wanted to ensure the vision was completed. And finally, the team values were like weaponized against me. When I did have a complaint, I was made to feel stupid and selfish. I was made to feel like I wasn't a team player.
But from a creator standpoint, from a player standpoint, when it comes to the greater narrative of Destiny, this thing that we're supposed to be invested in because, duh, that's kind of the point of a story-driven game, it's really hard to give 2 shits and a fuck about the story when the company producing the story doesn't give 2 shits and a fuck. Why should the player care about the world building, the lore, and the story when Bungie doesn't? When Bungie just retcons things over and over and over again because the writers are frankly lazy. And yes, it does come down to laziness. Because what's your best case scenario? Your best case scenario is that the writer is ignoring the lore to tell the story that they want to tell. Because the story that they want to tell doesn't exist within the confines of the world building that's already been established. Take, I don't know, I believe it was Season of the Splicer. It's whatever season Houselight came to reside within the city walls. That story allegedly was an allegory for refugees, except it ignored the fact that humanity had been at war with the Fallen for 500 years. It ignored the fact that the Fallen were the ones that started this war of genocide and had been trying to wipe out humanity for 500 years. And it decided that anyone like Lakshmi, who was against the Fallen suddenly taking up residence within the city, was unreasonable. You know, even though they were dealing with the trauma of watching London literally get glassed. But hey, fucking details, you're just a racist if you don't like the Fallen. And that is what the discourse around the story wound up being. If you called out how this plot just didn't make any sense given the already established lore, you're a racist. You're a bigot against fictional spider creatures. But I digress. The worst case scenario, of course, when it comes to a writer for an established franchise, is that they just couldn't be bothered to do a modicum of research. As somebody who has done lore content, not just for Destiny, but for Halo and Final Fantasy XIV, and I've talked about Warhammer 40k lore on my streams, I don't think that there's anything more frustrating for a content creator who does lore content when you know, as a content creator, how much time and effort it takes researching these topics. Because, oh boy, if you have the audacity to misspeak or get something wrong, you sure as shit are gonna hear about it. But if the writer fucks up, oh, you're just being a hater if you point it out. Okay, as a content creator, I understand all the effort it takes to research a topic. I also understand that occasionally there are blind spots. shit happens. However, it is frustrating to watch this happen again and again and again and again. Anyways, just a bit of housekeeping before we continue. I respect the fuck out of Matt. Even if I may end up making a couple of jokes throughout this video, I don't want that to diminish the fact that I respect the fuck out of Matt. He is one of the kindest people that I have ever had the pleasure of working with. He's also been a great sort of mentor as I've navigated this YouTube sphere. There's this delusion within aspects of the Destiny community that I am somehow considered excommunicatus traitoris. I'm not. I get along with Astrocross, I get along with Myelin, and I get along with Bife, just to name a few. Myelin specifically has always been great when it comes to giving advice when I go to him and ask about sponsors and whatnot. And because Myelin has been so kind to me in the past, I ask that whomever cares to hear it, go to his channel, follow his journey in Warframe or Path of Exiles 2 or Monster Hunter. Now, with all the pleasantries out of the way, let's go ahead and dive into the two videos that we're going to be looking over today. His YouTube short and his longer I'm done with Destiny video. Links to both of those will be in the description.
Let me read a message from Drew.
Yes, one of the great classical blunders. Taking commentary from the peanut gallery.
I'm not being funny, but I've been subbed for years. I don't know what the fuck this channel is supposed to be anymore. Bro's tanked since tapering off from D2. Unfortunately, I'm just no longer interested.
I absolutely do not understand the mentality of people who treat YouTube channels like airports and have to announce their departure.
Some people are really fucking stupid.
It's some sort of self-important narcissism fueled by this weird parasocial relationship that people create in their minds. I guess they think they're important enough to be hurting the YouTuber when they announce their departure. It's petty. I guess they're trying to rub it in our face. Second, I just love those well-meaning comments. If somebody says something along the lines of, I've been a fan for a long time, or I'm just saying, or not to be rude, or any semblance of you get where I'm going with this, I know I'm about to read the dumbest, most ignorant bullshit ever, just each and every time. And I don't say that to be crass to actual well-meaning fans who have left really good suggestions in the comments of my videos. More often than not, when somebody starts a sentence like that or a word of advice like that, 9 times out of 10, they're obviously being condescending. But as I am oft wont to do, I digress. Back to Matt.
Okay, this is a good conversation.
Well, come on. Speed it up.
So, one of the things I regret doing is just doing Destiny lore for over a decade and being really faithful to that community, because I now understand it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what content you make. People don't really give a shit about you as a person, which is fair. They're just there for the content.
Yeah, this is always something that's been kind of weird to me as a content creator. Like, okay, I will get comments that tell me what my opinions are, which how entitled do you have to be to assume somebody's opinion because you don't like their content? Like, just go watch something else. For example, I've been pretty open with the fact that I don't actually hate Destiny. I know, gasp, shock, horror, lightning crackle, lightning crackle, lightning crackle. Surprise to nobody who actually watches my videos. However, because the Destiny community is never going to beat the allegations of just looking at thumbnails and reading titles and assuming the contents of the video without actually consuming it, I will forever have a bunch of Reddit-addled lobotomites in my comments assuming my position on any given thing. And assuming bad intent or ill will or whatnot. For example, that I'm only in it for the money, that I do rage bait hate clicking because it pays the bills. How long was it between my most recent couple of videos and the ones before that? Oh, right. 8 months. Oh, and just for the record, I turned down 4 sponsorships in that time period. That's not a very sound business strategy now, is it? Also, sucking Bungie off would be way more profitable than criticizing the game. Because you know what? People like it when you validate their opinion. Now you might be wondering what this tangent has to do with the price of tea in China. Well, for the longest time, I wondered, okay, look, maybe my content comes off more negative because my thumbnails and my titles, but how many positive videos to critical videos do I need to make to get rid of that association? And then I realized from things that happened to Bife, Myelin, Aztecross, other Destiny creators that I follow, it doesn't matter. You could have years and years and years of positive content, but one negative video, and well, the Destiny community is going to hate you, or at least hate you for a little while. So if these bastions of the community who have done more for the Destiny community than these little bottomites are going to get hate, what chance does somebody who actually wants to see change have at all? It's kind of like that old saying, you can build 100 bridges and suck one dick, and you're not known as a bridge builder, you're known as a dick sucker. The point in the shape of the tooth is there are people who inevitably just want to see content creators fail for one reason or another. Maybe it's because they don't like your content, maybe it's because they don't like what you have to say, maybe it's because you don't dance like a marionette on puppet strings to their demands. Whatever the case may be. Oftentimes, I find that a lot of these people have egos that they have to protect because the concept of the guilty pleasure is dead. People don't understand that you can like bad things. No. You can't do that anymore. Everything you like has to be good, or that means you're bad. You can't like something bad. That means you're wasting your time. That means you're stupid. That means you're devalued. You can't make something that's tacky and bad part of your personality, like a video game, like Destiny. No. Destiny has to be the greatest thing ever. Or you can accept that it's a flawed but fun experience. Which one seems more saner? And that, in my opinion, is the essence behind why you get comments like the one that set Myelin off. This comment, in my opinion, only exists because somebody needed to protect their own ego. They didn't have to say anything, they could have just hit unsub, but it was important to them that Matt know that he had betrayed them. Because in the cult of Bungie and the cult of Destiny, there are worse things than being a heretic, being a traitor. But again, as I am oft wont to do, I digress. Myelin would then continue his tangent, saying,
it doesn't matter what content you make, people don't really give a shit about you as a person, which is fair. They're just there for the content, right? They're just there to watch and consume the things they like, which is fine. And guess what? I don't give two shits about Destiny 2 anymore. The story is complete fucking trash. You've been playing the same game for 10 years and you're still playing the same game. And if you like it, great. You do you. But don't let the door hit you on the way out, Drew, you fucking dumb.
Say it.
Fuck you.
After you say it.
You're really going to force me on this?
I'm at half-mast. I need to hear this.
Fine! You were right! Jump up your own ass and die!
Houston, we have no problems.
I would be lying if I said there wasn't a little validation in Myelin basically saying what I've been saying for years. And I think the best part is, because I have been saying all of this for years, I've been warning about the state of Destiny coming to where it's at for years because the writing has been on the wall. All you had to do was pay attention, but here we are. And it was all entirely avoidable. But Bungie did a really good job of insulating themselves from criticism because they built a cult around Destiny. Now, that might sound weird at first blush, but Destiny is a highly addictive game. It's built to be addictive, and there are significant links between cults and addiction. Both involve patterns of obsessive behavior, dependence on, and validation. Sound familiar? We also see a significant compulsion towards an in-group, out-group dynamic that mirrors compulsions to continue using addictive substances, or in Destiny's case, continue pulling that RNG lever. I also think a significant portion of the in-group, out-group dynamic and the hate that traitors or quote-unquote heretics get stems from a persecution complex within the Destiny community. Destiny has spent more time as a bad game than a good game. And so people who have stuck around, who have been here since the Destiny Alpha or whatnot, go through these phases where they are very, very protective of this game because they've invested so much of themselves into it. And when you point out that that's kinda silly, well, they get super defensive because not only are you attacking the game, you're attacking them and their investment. And their investment can't be bad. Part of them, which they identify with, can't be bad. We talked about this earlier, but it rings true here as well. And you do see this in other games and other communities. However, in my opinion, it seems to be more extreme, the more addictive by nature or the more protective of the game the community is. But again, as I am oft wont to do, I have digressed.
There you go. So I'm in the point where it doesn't matter. Like, if I'm going to just stick to Destiny 2, the game will eventually die. And you won't fucking play it yet either.
I mean, he's not wrong. Look at the player base. The player population has plummeted over the last couple of years. At the risk of beating a dead horse, if we go over to Steam charts, we see that Destiny has between 40 to 45,000 peak players in the last 24 hours, out of a total of 316,000. That's not good. In fact, if you look at a game like Warframe has 52,371 players right now, a peak of 65,279 with an all-time of 181,509. So Warframe has less players to pull from, but continues to maintain around 50,000 players per day, and that's just on Steam. Why? Destiny is a much bigger game than Warframe. So how is Warframe maintaining way more players than Destiny? It's something to think about. And if this trend of losing players continues into Frontiers, which is Project Apollo and Project Behemoth, why would Bungie continue developing Destiny content? It's just not worth it. And I know it's easy for people to hear that and go, but Joker, that's just you doomsaying. No, it's not. That's just looking at abject reality. Why would Bungie continue developing content for a game that's losing money, more so when they have Marathon, which probably, if I had to guess, has relatively low development cost because all they have to do is develop one large map for people to go play on and then occasionally develop weapons and skins that they can sell in a cash shop. Like, go play any battle royale game and you're basically playing Marathon. Yes, I know it's slightly different, but not really. All Bungie has to do is develop something like that and maintain its cash shop. And even if it only gets like 50, 60,000 players per platform per day, if those 50, 60,000 players per platform per day are paying money to play, then it's still doing better than Destiny because they don't have to maintain it the same way that they have to maintain Destiny. Because Destiny needs these big sweeping stories and expansions with voice acting, usually, and cinematics and all that nonsense. An extraction shooter is just a PvP game. This is so 1 + 1 = 2. It's not even funny, but you spell it out and you break it down and you use the lines of logic and reasoning for the average Destiny fanboy, and they just look at you like you've exhaled dust. Because how could Destiny fail? No, it can't. I refuse to believe.
So I might as well change to games I like playing. I just happen to play a bit of Pokemon Pocket. I happen to play a bit of PoE. I happen to play a bit of Monster Hunter. I'm just going to upload content that I'm playing. How about that?
Now, I'm sure me and Myelin Games have a lot of audience crossover, so I probably don't need to say this, but support his new content. With that said, we now come to Myelin Games' bigger video announcing his departure from Destiny.
G'day, how you going? How you been? Long time no see.
You know, pretty good. Same shit, different day. Playing a little bit of Final Fantasy XIV, a little bit of Monster Hunter.
So I've been doing some YouTube live streams recently. We did Soulframe, which is from the developers of Warframe. It's like a pre-alpha. We did some Path of Exile. We did some Ninja Gaiden 2. And more recently, I did Pokemon Pockets, like the card game on mobile. And for whatever reason, Pokemon was the straw that broke the camel's back and just triggered a whole bunch of commenters to say, what the hell is this channel anymore? I don't get it. See ya. Bye.
Tangent time. You would think that Pokemon would be right up a Destiny player's alley. After all, it has hacks, so you have the gambling RNG aspect.
Should I open it or should I keep it sealed?
You have build crafting. You make your little different decks and you play other opponents. So you got PvP, PvE if you're playing the computer. I don't know if there's a computer play in this game, but hey, you know, I assume there is. And then you have like rarities. So you have, you know, common, rare, legendary, or whatever. You have holographic. You would think that Destiny players would like Pokemon. I guess they're just too flippin' adorable.
So I wanted to talk about that. I had a very ragey response, but don't let the door hit you on the way out, Drew, you fucking dumb. Which is a YouTube short. If you want to watch it, I'll link it down below. If you want to get my gut reaction to someone coming into a live stream and talking like that, you can see my initial response to it. But I thought, I'm a bit more level-headed now. I might as well make a longer form video and kind of update people where we're at with the channel and what's going on, because to be fair, it is pretty confusing seeing all that stuff.
Is it confusing though? Because I think it's pretty simple. I mean, maybe I'm just giving the average person a little too much credit, but Destiny isn't doing good. If you tie your cart and horse to one thing and it's not doing good, you have to either go down with the ship or find a new ship.
Hopefully this will give you some closure if you've been a long-time subscriber, and maybe we'll part ways, and that will be fine as well. So let me take you through it, starting with some of these comments about, like, you've tanked, dog shit channel, dead channel. What is it? What is this channel anymore? And part of this is my own fault.
Part of this is the comment section has a toxic element to it. I love seeing comments like, bro fell off, from people who are never on. You know, make it make sense.
Part of this is my own fault because I only made Destiny 2 lore videos for 10 years. Very, very specific niche that I was very consistent in doing. Every single week, I gave you a Destiny lore video for 10 years. And every time I tried to stray away from that, I did get pulled back in because I did get comments like this. What are you doing, man? Why are you not playing more Destiny? I don't do that. I still remember the time I did Halo and someone's like, bad business decision. See ya.
Okay, so yeah, Halo is kind of a bad business decision, but not because it's a bad business decision. Halo's a bad business decision because, well, Halo's kind of deader than Destiny, but details.
I was like, shit, yeah, it is a bad business decision. I'm going to fucking lose my house. Anyway, but there is truth to people being shocked at seeing non-Destiny content on this channel, because I'm not an idiot, I do understand that when you subscribe to a YouTube channel, you expect a certain level of content, and most people know me as the Destiny lore guy. Not the Destiny lore guy, that's Biff, but the other Destiny lore guy, okay? And that's for the most part what you come to expect. So I understand the shock in that. What I don't understand and I don't get, and what triggers me, is the need to come into a live stream or to go onto a non-Destiny lore video and make that kind of comment.
Well, I can tell you what it is. It's the Destiny community is kinda sort of a cult. And when you leave a cult, what happens? Well, you become a traitor. In fact, people who leave the cults are worse than people who criticize the cult. The people who criticize the cult, they don't understand. They're misinformed. They're ignorant. People who leave the cult, they're traitors. So when you get those comments, Matt, you have people who are just dyed-in-the-wool Destiny fanboys seeing you basically diminish their obsession, taking this thing that they have made a part of themselves and going, nope, I don't want to do that anymore because I don't see any value in it. So you don't see any value in them as people. So they lash out.
And I mean this in the nicest possible way now. If you still play Destiny and you enjoy playing Destiny and that's your thing, I'm happy. I'm sincerely, genuinely happy for you, and I hope it still is everything you want it to be in a game. I hope it's a game you get to hang out with friends, you get to relax in, you get to do all your gaming things in, and I genuinely hope it goes well for you.
Yeah, 100%. Same here. When I criticize Destiny, I'm not criticizing necessarily the players who are enjoying the game, unless they get in the comment sections and they start mouthing off like idiots.
Fucking dumb.
What I'm criticizing is the multi-billion-dollar infrastructure that is Bungie. The infrastructure that Sony thought was so valuable that they spent $3.6 billion to obtain and then allowed to basically just run shop. I'm talking about the corporation that other gaming studios, like say EA, are trying to follow their design of. EA's trying to do games as a service games, and they failed with Anthem, but then somehow Dragon Age Veilguard failed because it wasn't a games as a service game. What? Or Halo Infinite.
Looks like the main power cells are fried. Auto shutdown. Triggering survival mode. I'm going to try to overwrite. Okay. If you can hear me in there, I hope you're ready. Please don't die.
Oh my God.
Please. Don't die.
I'm home. You maniac! You blew it up! Oh, damn you! God damn you all to hell!
Halo Infinite sucks shit through a straw. It does. That's why it's dead. Why does it suck shit through a straw? Because 343 Industries decided they were going to go on this 10-year journey with Halo Infinite, except it didn't even make it out of the planning phases. Halo Infinite isn't a 10-year product. It was barely a 2-year product. And the frustrating thing is, Microsoft was looking at buying Bungie. They looked at Bungie's books. They knew what it would take to run a games as a service game looking at Bungie. And they passed on Bungie. That's how Sony was able to acquire them. Because if you remember, during Shadowkeep, Destiny was on Games Pass. If you don't think that was a trial run to basically see how Destiny would perform as an Xbox game, then you've lost the plot. And we can talk about Games Pass and how it's bad for gaming another day. But the point in the shape of the tooth is Microsoft was really invested in maybe purchasing Bungie until they realized Bungie burns through way too much money. But then, almost paradoxically, Microsoft goes, well, okay, we don't want Bungie, but we're going to do basically the same thing that Bungie did with Destiny with our star franchise, Halo, except we're not. And during development, we're going to rotate out our employees that are learning the engine, that are developing the game every 6 months. And yet, this is the type of shit games as a service games like Destiny being somewhat successful, and I'm air quoting successful, facilitate. Everybody's going to be chasing that bag. Because if you look at Destiny, it's actually a really, really interesting content model. So look at Anthem, look at Halo, look at Destiny. When these games as a service games come out, oftentimes they're missing features, they're half finished, and they're basically early access games. Well, what happens after that? The market decides whether EA, Activision, Ubisoft, whatever, continues developing these products. So you, the customer, you put your $60, $70 in, you put hundreds of hours into this half-finished, broken game, and you're like, okay, well, you know what? They're going to continue supporting it. It'll get better. I trust this multi-billion-dollar corporation because that's... Oh, I can't even fucking entertain doing that. But details. The point I'm getting at is you have all these games come out. The model is basically an early access ripoff. It's a grift from these publishers, from these developers who have no intent on, if these games don't make $1 bajillion in their first year, continuing support for the games. And we saw this with Anthem. We saw this with Halo Infinite. Halo Infinite was supposed to have story DLC. Where'd that go? What happened to Halo Infinite's 10-year plan? Oh, right. Because it didn't sell $1 bajillion copies in the first week. It sold no copies because it was on Games Pass, but I guess because it didn't sell $1 bajillion worth of microtransactions in the first week, well, I guess we just don't continue the game. And this keeps on happening over and over and over and over again. So when I criticize the game, I'm criticizing these business decisions. I'm not criticizing the players who enjoy these products. Enjoy it to your heart's content. I enjoy bad games. One of my favorite games of all times is this really shitty game that came out in 2012 called Syndicate. It's like this cyberpunk game. If you've never seen it, there's probably footage on the screen right now. It has a 74 Metacritic score, a 7.3 average user rating. It was bad. It was just cyberpunk schlock, and I fucking loved it. You can like bad games. You can like bad movies. The Room? Who doesn't like The Room?
You are tearing me apart, Lisa!
You know, there's all these games, all these movies, all these TV shows, and they're bad. And you can like them because they're bad. But you also have to kind of have a little bit of self-awareness to go, yeah, this is kind of bad. This is kind of slop. And you have to have this self-awareness because you have to be able to separate the critical thinking part of talking about any given product from your enjoyment of that product. Just because you enjoy something doesn't mean it's good. It's good to you in your subjective opinion, but objectively, it can still be bad. More so if it has all these kind of practices that are very anti-consumer. I would like to think most people agree on that. But again, you have to have these conversations. You can't just turn your brain off because you like something. And just because you like something doesn't mean somebody being critical of that thing is an accusation that you're a bad person or you like something bad or you're lesser or any of that nonsense. And yet people believe that it is, and it is maddening. Your identity is not a fucking product. Your identity is you as a person. I like Halo. I like Warhammer. You know, it's Gears of War is silly. All of it. None of this stuff is the greatest thing that has ever been great in existence. It's all kind of mid-tier. You can like it. It's fine. It doesn't have to be an Oscar award winning 10 out of 10 every time. It's okay for it to be bad. It's okay to like bad things. Somebody commenting or being critical of bad things is not commentary on you as a person. I know I've said that a couple of times now, but I really feel like I need to drive this point home, just for the people in the cheap seats.
This channel is not going to cover Destiny anymore. And you can, without any there's no hard feelings. You can unsubscribe and I'll give you a handshake on the way out, okay?
I'm actually kind of surprised he tapped out before I did, because I've been integrating Warhammer, Final Fantasy, Halo, Warframe, all these other games into the content that I make for years now, kind of, you know, weaning my audience off of Destiny, but I've never actually just dropped it, you know, and I don't think I will, because my enjoyment from Destiny doesn't necessarily come from the quality of the game. I enjoy making content about it, whether it's good or it's bad. If Destiny's good, then I get to make content about how it's good. And I know that's gas, shock, horror, lightning, crackle, lightning. That's, Joker never says anything good about Destiny. To fanboys in the comments. I know. But if Destiny's good, I win because I can talk about how it's good. If Destiny's bad, I win because I can appreciate the burning dumpster fire that Destiny is. Heads I win, tails I win. You have to put yourself in a scenario where no matter what Bungie does, you win.
You don't even have to leave a comment. If you want to leave a comment saying thanks for the good times, I've enjoyed the last 10 years, and we can just leave it at that, that's fine. Like, I'm okay with that. I think the thing that like triggers me is the very small, loud part of the Destiny community, and actually in nearly any game really, that is fanatical. They're not just happy playing the game, they're unhappy you're not playing the game.
Again, I've already talked about this a couple times in this video. It's in-group, out-group dynamics.
That just sends me, and when you get that in a comment, that's why this YouTube short was so ragey with lots of swearing. It's because that kind of attitude drives me insane. That it's not good enough for them to be playing their own game and being happy, but they actively go onto a non-Destiny video to leave some sort of snarky comment. And it's actually one of the reasons why I started the variety channel, so just kind of get away from that. And when I actually made a new channel that wasn't tied to Destiny and people were just like thanking me in the comments, I'm like, oh my God, this is why I started making videos. It's just like kind of nice people saying thanks rather than saying why no Destiny lore videos.
Yeah, that is something we as content creators have to actively fight against falling into the trap of, because that one negative comment is going to stand in contrast against all the positive comments. And unfortunately, because we're human, we're wired to remember that negative comment more than the thousands, literal thousands of comments that agree with us or support us, or like, hey bro, I'm glad to see you're like doing something other than Destiny, or great video, Joker, or, you know, oh man, true facts, Joker, you know, you did such a good job with this editing. I'm going to notice the comment that's like, Joker, your editing was bad, more than I'm going to notice all the comments going, oh hey, I like this new editing style, because that's just how humans are wired. It is what it is. But we do need to remember that even in our communities, the voices that are just being assholes, they're such a minority, it's not worth considering their opinions. Yeah, I'm not going to be one of those people that's content creation is harder than a 9-to-5 job. That's absolute trite. At the same time, we need to get out of our own heads as content creators and not focus on these negative comments.
This is going to be a bit ranty and a bit off topic. Like, we're going to go in every different direction here because I do have some dot points to go through. But yeah, if I don't stay on topic, I'm trying to do this in one run recording.
Oh, I can't imagine how ranty and off topic this video has gotten.
But the main point is, if you are a Destiny player right now and you love Destiny and you subscribe to the channel for Destiny lore, and I just want to let you know that I'm not going to cover Destiny lore again. And I'll get to the reasons why I don't like Destiny. I think we've got some other things to talk about first, but I'm not going to cover Destiny lore again.
I would personally never say never, because if Project Apollo and Project Behemoth and Frontiers and all that nonsense comes out and it's like, Destiny's back, yeah, baby, then it would be worth covering. It would be worth talking about. It would be worth playing, but only if you get an enjoyment out of it. If he's not enjoying it, then he shouldn't cover it. He has, after all, been burnt by Bungie, not just from a content creation standpoint, but from a personal, he worked with Bungie and Bungie kind of screwed him over, at least in my opinion. So, you know, it is what it is. I'm not going to tell anybody what to do. I would just say, personally speaking, I wouldn't rule it out. Even if I stopped covering Destiny and just made like Final Fantasy videos or Warframe videos or Warhammer videos, point is, I wouldn't rule it out, but I get it.
That's fine. If you want to stick around and watch this dumpster fire and see where it goes, you can stick around too. But just to let you know, I'm not going to cover Destiny and Destiny lore again.
This may shock some people, but I don't watch a lot of Destiny YouTuber content. I don't watch a lot of video gaming YouTuber content either. Basically, most of my YouTube watching is this guy, Simon Whistler, with Casual Criminalist, side projects, Brain Blaze, stuff like that.
Look at my cock!
I'm watching history stuff. There's a guy who does these history videos that I really, really like, and I'll put it up here. I don't know what his name is off the top of my head. I'm really bad with names. And then there's cooking stuff that I watch, and it's just a bunch of random cooking stuff. Sam the Cooking Guy is one that comes to mind. I like his stuff. But yeah, most of my YouTube content consumption is true crime, history, and cooking.
Oh, I also watch a lot of Warhammer podcasts. Adeptus Ridiculous and these guys. These guys are awesome.
I'm Lysander.
And I'm Coda.
However, I will say I've been tuning into Mylin's Warframe streams a lot more because I just find that more interesting than anything he was doing Destiny. So I don't know what that says. I don't know if it's just because he's enjoying the content more, but I have been delighted in every time I tune in. So if you're watching this, Myelin, good job.
Okay, and it's completely fine to unsubscribe. And in fact, you actually do me a favor by unsubscribing, because if I keep putting out content that you don't like and it gets put into your YouTube feed and you don't click on it, that actually hurts the video. That's the first point. I think I've kind of talked about why it triggers me. I think everyone knows these Destiny people. They actually make the game experience worse. They're easily the worst part of any gaming community. It's just like fanatical that this is the only game. This the whole identity is this game is for them, and if you don't play this game, you're an idiot.
Oh, so fucking true. Oh my God. So fucking true. Preach, brother. I got nothing to say about that because I've been ranting about that this entire video. And we all know it. We all see it. And I do believe that these people make Destiny actively worse. Like, they'll be like, oh, but Joker, you make Destiny worse because you're always complaining. No, you make Destiny unbearable to fucking play because I don't want to be associated with these sycophants, right? These people who suck corpo cock 24/7. It's embarrassing. Bungie's not your friend. Bungie doesn't care about you. You are just another number in a ledger. Editing Joker here. So Myelin rambles on a bit about what he's going to be doing with his content in the future. He rambles on, then I ramble on, then he rambles on, then I ramble on, and I just didn't find it to be very entertaining. So we're going to go ahead and skip ahead a little bit to some more substantive content. If you want to watch this full video, again, links will be in the description below.
Cool. Let's talk about Destiny and why I don't like it. Because I've said this a lot on stream, but I think people on YouTube probably haven't really heard me talk about it that much. So let me just give you the reasons why. And I have absolutely zero love for Destiny anymore, and that's kind of sad.
Man, you hate to see it. I get called the Destiny hater all the time. Like each and every video, there's going to be like 50 comments. Joker, you're a Destiny hater. Joker, you're a Destiny hater. Why do you keep playing this game? Blah, 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 blah. Brain dead comments like that. You want to see somebody that hates Destiny? Look at that. That is a disappointed fan. That is somebody who has put a significant portion of themselves into something and been betrayed by it. Never meet your heroes. Like, he worked with Bungie, so, you know, he has it from that angle. He also has it from the angle of somebody who likes lore, who likes stories, who liked this world, and just ultimately, in my opinion, and I assume he's going to talk more about this, somebody who has, what's the best way to put this? Somebody who put a lot of effort into trying to create entertaining content and even predict where the future of the franchise was going. And ultimately, all that was thrown out by Bungie for expediency. We're going to retcon this, we're going to retcon that because it makes Bungie's writers' jobs easier. Or not even that. Let's give Bungie the best case scenario. The best case scenario is that their writing team has rotated in and out so many freaking times that, like, you can't really blame them for not knowing everything. But at the end of the day, as customers, that's not our problem. Get your shit together, Bungie. You're a multi-billion-dollar corporation owned by one of the largest multimedia platforms on the face of the planet, Sony Entertainment. You have the people power, you have the money, you have the ability. There's absolutely no reason that Destiny should be the shit show that it is.
And I obviously no plans to go back to it either. The real breaking point for me was the rebranding of seasons to episodes.
I think what episodes allows us to do is to not only continue telling stories in a new and pretty interesting way, but it also allows us to just really amp up the variety of the types of things that we can bring and when we can bring them into the game.
So that was a fucking lie.
Yeah, seasons to episodes was just insulting to the customer. We have this paradigm where we're now getting less content. We're paying the same, if not more, for less content, put out at a worse cadence, and Bungie promised, oh, this time it'll be different. This time we'll do cool, new, exciting things with it. Where, oh, the potions? Well, But the potions were just a fucking bad version of weapon focusing with like extra steps. The Nether is just another horde mode, not horde mode. You're just running around, you're killing enemies for what? Weapons that are tangentially maybe better than stuff you already have? To me, it's not a very compelling reason to do anything. And mind you, I grew up playing Halo.
When I joined the Corps, we didn't have any fancy schmancy tanks. We had sticks. 2 sticks and a rock for a whole platoon, and we had to share the rock.
I don't need a lot. I don't need 50,000 weapons that are more or less the same exact thing. To fight ads, we've basically been fighting for the better part of 10 years. I need new and interesting experiences, not just the same rehash, same shit, different day. Horde mode, not horde mode, 3,872.
For them to acknowledge pretty much everything I had, like, issue with is like, this feels formulaic and repetitive, and we know you're going,
oh man, if only there was a charming red-clad titan that was warning against the repetitiveness of Destiny content and the cadence in which its content was created or delivered for the last couple of years.
Do the thing.
I am Nostradamus, the voice of God.
speaking to Ido in real life, and then going to the holo projector and speaking to Ido again, and then running to make a potion, and then like, yeah, let us cook, rebranding seasons to episodes. This is going to give us more time to give you more diverse content. And then, surprise, it was the same stuff.
Well, I think a large part of the problem here is that Destiny 2 was not supposed to last more than 2 years. Bungie had this huge thing, I believe it was back in 2020, 2021, where the development lead talked about how the team believed the development arc of Destiny 2 would progress, that it would have a similar cadence to that of Destiny 1. You'd have the game, you'd have a couple expansions, and then you'd have Destiny 3. That's not what happened. So now you have this game that was never designed to last more than a couple of years, that was rushed to market, doesn't take a rocket surgeon to get what's going on. They've reached the limit of what this engine can do, and now they're just buying time. And hey, that's not an excuse, but it is a reason. I mean, I've said it before, I'll say it again, and I will probably say it again many times, but I don't necessarily know if Destiny survives Marathon. More so if Frontiers, meaning Project Apollo and Project Behemoth, continues to have these current Destiny 2 player numbers. I think at this point, most people understand that Destiny 2 as is just unsustainable. Whether that sustainability comes from technology, money, people, it doesn't matter. Destiny 2 is unsustainable. Now, that doesn't mean that there won't be a Destiny 3 or something like that in the future. Destiny Rising's a thing, and Bungie may take a look at how that performs and decide to copy it with a Destiny 3. But that's only if Marathon fails. Because if Marathon fails, what does Bungie have? What can they fall back on? I think if Marathon fails, we see Bungie go into hibernation for a couple of years, and they come out with a Destiny 3 or Destiny. That's provided Sony doesn't clean house, but I don't see Sony closing Bungie down because they spent $3.6 billion on them. You don't spend that kind of money just to close that studio down. This isn't $400 million for a game that just fails and you just go, well, you know, this is $3.6 billion with a B, and I just kind of assume that that's going to insulate Bungie from at least the worst excesses of Sony. Now, Sony could basically fire everybody and start hiring new people, but Bungie as an entity isn't going anywhere. And Sony's already demonstrated that they're willing to bring in Bungie staff into their corporate structure to show that the whole purchase wasn't an entire crapshoot, at least to their investors, which is the only people that care about these sorts of announcements.
And obviously I caught a lot of criticism when I first put out my video about this, like during episode 1, act 1, and everyone's like, let him cook. It's, you know, it's the first episode, and then it was the same formula, the same repetitive thing happening each episode, but now you just had less of it because there wasn't as many seasons. And that's one thing, is like, I'm just fatigued on that formula. I really am fatigued on that gameplay formula, and Bungie hasn't innovated enough in that area. I think if you give Destiny 2 to a new player and help them understand it and play it, it's a good game. But if you've been playing it for 10 years, like, I'm just tired of doing the exact same thing every season.
Actually, I don't know if you give Destiny 2 to a new player if it's a good experience, because the new player experience is actually freaking terrible. Because the new player experience, you know, the Red War is gone. And oh wait, it's not just gone, it's gone. If you were betting on that content coming back, woo-wee, you bet wrong.
And on that note, the story I felt is also the same. I don't feel like the seasonal and episodic stories ever come first. It's always like, I feel like there's a developer meeting and someone says, all right, what's a cool theme? Vampires. Oh yeah, love it. All right, let's make potions. All right, narrative team, make a story fit with making potions.
Yeah, yeah, I couldn't said it better myself. One of the big problems with Destiny's storytelling, I think, is, and this goes all the way back to Taken King, we killed the apex predator of existence. And since we killed Oryx, every other threat hasn't really been a threat to us, the player, it's been a threat to the city. Except Gaul, who basically took our light from us. And that was supposed to be a change in the status quo, but oh wait, no, we got our powers back within 3.5 seconds. So not only did we get our powers back within 3.5 seconds, we got new powers back within 3.5 seconds. The Vex theoretically pose a very significant threat to the fabric of existence, but Bungie's never done anything with it. Why has Bungie never done anything with it? Because it's an MMO. You can't really kill the player character. I mean, you could, if you were going to like go to a Destiny 3, you could kill the player character at the end of Destiny 2 and be like, oh, what? But if you're not going to do that, if you're not going to move to a Destiny 3, or if you're not going to reboot the franchise, then you can't. So you have to keep trying to figure out what kind of threats are going to challenge the player, what kind of threats are going to be interesting to the player. And Bungie never figured that out. We basically got Entropy, which wasn't Entropy, and it seemed like Destiny, at least with Final Shape, was heading to a reboot. And there's reasons to believe that Bungie was going to do a Destiny 3 or a reboot because Project Payback. Now Project Payback got canceled with the firing of Luke Smith and Mark Noseworthy and the reallocating of assets within Bungie. We also know that Destiny Final Shape was rebooted in the 11th hour, and that's why we're getting Frontiers, which is just more Destiny 2.
The point being, like, I'm going to bang on about Halo. I feel like if you go back to Halo or anything else that's like...
yes, we are boss babying the shit out of this video. I, too, am a Halo fan. I wonder how many people will get boss baby as a reference.
It's a story-driven game, right? And Destiny's not a story-driven game. Destiny is a gameplay-driven game, is should be a loot-driven game, and then the story is just kind of molded around all those mechanics that are designed to get you to play every week.
From a technical standpoint, he's not wrong. That's what Destiny has become. However, Bungie keeps harping on, expansion after expansion, season after season, episode after episode, about how Destiny is a story-driven game, and we're moving forward in this universe, and we're exploring this universe. So is it really out of pocket to expect a good story when Bungie themselves keeps talking about how Destiny is a story-driven game?
And I just feel like a lot of the seasonal episodic stuff is just fluff. It doesn't build any characters, it doesn't build the world, it doesn't even tell a good story most of the time, because they're just forced to weave into whatever the seasonal mechanic fluff is to somehow describe why you need to go over and get the potion and bring it back to shore Ida.
And honestly, as somebody who likes the Destiny universe, I think the game would be better if we cut out all this story nonsense that we get every episode. If it's not going to be good, I would rather just not have to deal with, go talk to Juraido 87 times. What does Destiny excel at other than wasting your fucking time?
Okay. And yeah, so I really just not enjoying the story anymore. And I feel like it was not going in any direction that I found interesting. And there's only so many times that you can make a video like, oh, do you see how this says this in this like lore chapter? This could mean like this villain will betray us, or we'll go to a different planet, or like we'll get a new ability, whatever. Like, you know, all the lore videos I make about like predicting the future, which is what makes it exciting, that mystery of the lore.
Oh, you think that's bad, Matt? Imagine coming across what Bungie is actively ripping off of, and then later getting confirmation that Jason Jones was a fan of that. Once you see all the Elric Mel Nibene in Destiny, you can't unsee it. And then once you know that Jason Jones was a fan of it, so was Christopher Barrett, by the way, you can't unsee it.
I now have no faith that any of it will eventuate. And if it does, it'll probably take 10 years to eventuate. Do you know what I mean? Like, it just takes... So, like, what's the point of reading it? If there's no mystery there that ever is going to, like, come to truth, then what's the point?
Well, this might come off as a tangent, but I'm going to quote the source material that I think Bungie's been ripping off for the last 30 so years. But what is the meaning of it all? Elric said, that I have never fully understood. Who can say? Who can know why the cosmic balance exists? Why fate exists? And the lords of the higher worlds? There seems to be an infinity of space and time and possibilities. There may be an infinite number of beings, one above the other, who see the final purpose. Though in infinity, there can be no final purpose. Perhaps it's all cyclical, and the same event will occur again and again and again until the universe runs down and fades away, as the world we knew has faded. Meaning, Elric, do not seek that, for madness lies in such a course. No meaning, no pattern, then why have I suffered all of this? Perhaps even the gods seek meaning and pattern, and this is merely one attempt. Look, he waved his hand to indicate the newly formed earth. All of this is fresh and molded by logic. Perhaps the logic will control the newcomers. Perhaps a factor will occur to destroy that logic. The gods experiment. The cosmic balance guides the destiny of the earth. Men struggle and credit the gods with knowing why they struggle. But do the gods know? You disturb me further when I had hoped to be comforted. He sighed. I've lost my wife and world, and I don't know why. That excerpt was from the end of Elric Melniboné, Stormbringer. Fans of Destiny lore might have noticed quite a few, let's say, conceptual parallels. And if the meaning of that wasn't blatantly clear, basically, there is no meaning. And in fact, not even Bungie knows what they're doing, which is kind of meta in a weird way. But meta storytelling has been kind of a hallmark of Bungie storytelling since the beginning. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think Bungie is a bunch of intellectual geniuses who mastercrafted this super meta story through all of their games. I think they just kind of stumbled upon this because what their inspiration and or ripping off did it. It probably doesn't hurt that Bungie's basically been telling the same exact story for the better part of 30 years. This isn't even a take my word for it bro moment. Myth and Myth 2 are the Light and Darkness saga. Myth and Myth 2 are also very inspired by Elric Melniboné. The Leveler, the big bad, is the Eternal Champion. The Book of the Unveiling is just a bloated version of the unformatted terminals from Marathon. Quoting, I've been Roland, Beowulf, Achilles, Gilgamesh. I've been called 100 names. I will be called 1,000 more before the world goes dim and cold. I am a hero. I wonder, I sit here all a wonder, where have I heard that before? It's Michael Moorcock's Eternal Champion. But Joker, that just sounds like the hero's journey. We'll get to you in a moment. Going back to the Marathon quote, she has been nameless since our birth, a constant adversary caring for nothing but my ruin, a sword drenched in my blood, forever, my greatest and only love. She is the Dark One, the enemy and lover without whom my very existence would be pathetic and vulgar. Her eyes steam and boil in the night. She is fantastically beautiful, yet I cannot stand the sight of her. Our relationship is complex and perhaps eternal. We met once at the gate of the garden, at the beginning of the world, and unaware of our twin destinies, not the Garden of Genesis, but another forgotten, untended, and now choked with weeds, unvisited except for ourselves. We matched stares across a dry fountain, and I recall her smiling at me before she devoured the lawn and the trees with translucent blue flame, and tore the flagstones from the path and hurled them into the sky, screaming my sins. Our reunions are epic battles, fought without quarter, often in the dark, as the moon is seldom visible and the sun never. I powder a granite monument in soundless flash, showering the grass with molten drops of gold inlay, sending smoking chips of stone spinning into the fog. She splinters an ancient oak with the force that takes my breath away and hurls me to the ground. She leaves and I lie in the slow rain of burning slivers of wood, staring at the low, dark clouds, craving our next meeting. For those of you familiar with the Destiny lore, not only is that basically more or less the Book of the Unveiling, but it's also nearly word for word identical to Ghost Fragment Rasputin 4. Speaking of the Book of the Unveiling, in it, Bungie, the Darkness, the Voice in the Dark, presents the argument made by a shoemaker philosopher. Sorrow cannot survive death. It cannot precede birth. Those who exist have moral worth. Those who do not have none. However, this quote is taken out of context. The context can be found in the book 6 Theosophic Points, page 102. TLDR, Jacob Boehm is talking about Lucifer, quoting, and yet it is not to be thought that the life of darkness therefore sinks down into misery, that it would forget itself as if it were sorrowful. There is no sorrowing, but what with us on earth is sorrowing according to this property. In the darkness, power and joy according to the property of the darkness. For sorrowfulness is a thing that is swallowed up in death, but death and dying is the life of the darkness. Just as anguish
is the life of the poison. The greater the anguish becomes in the poison, the stronger becomes the poison light, as is to be seen in the external poison. We cannot, then, say of the devil that he sits in dejection, as if he were faint-hearted. There is no faint-heartedness in him, but a constant will to kindle the poison source more, that his fierceness may become greater. For this fierceness is his strength, wherein he draws his will to mount above the thrones and inflame them. He would be a mighty lord in the poison source, for it is the strong and great life, but the light is his misery and dread that checks his bravery. He is terrified at the light, for it is his true poison, which torments him, because he abandoned it. It now resists him, which he is ashamed, that he is thus a deformed angel in a strange image. The darkness using this quote in the Book of the Unveiling is kind of an interesting self-report, now that we have the context. Now, Jacob Boehm was part of the Transcendentalist movement, and put a pin in the idea of Transcendentalism. Now, obviously, we can make pretty direct ties between the Book of the Unveiling and the unformatted terminals from Marathon, both of which suppose Transcendentalist ideas. Now, when I talk about Transcendentalism, I'm more so talking about the second wave of Transcendentalism from the later half of the 19th century, which was more concerned with the transcendence of the spirit. The Book of the Unveiling supposes Jacob Boehm's ideas, where the unformatted Marathon terminal supposes a take on Ralph Waldo Emerson's ideas. Ralph Waldo Emerson would propose the idea that all books are the same book, and that humanity is tied together as a species through story. If the Game of Thrones fans in the audience are cringing a little bit,
there's nothing in the world more powerful than a good story. Nothing can stop it. No enemy can defeat it. And who has a better story than Bran the Broken?
That's because George R.R. Martin is also a fan of Michael Moorcock's work. And that's probably how the books are going to actually end, in the event they ever actually end. Sorry, Carmine. I'll make it up to you. We'll play Deprestiny.
Hello everyone, welcome back to my midlife crisis.
Now, while I originally said the unformatted terminals were Emerson related, that's not quite accurate. It would be more accurate to say that the unformatted terminals were based off of Michael Moorcock's conclusion to Emerson's All Books Are the Same Book. But I feel like it's important you know, oh dear viewer mine, the evolution of the concept. Because if all books are the same book, then all heroes or anti-heroes are the same hero. Or at least that's what Michael Moorcock supposes. But Joker, that's just the hero's journey. Well, for starters, I would point out that in the foreword to the Elric Melniboné Stormbringer, author Michael Chabon believes that Moorcock came to this conclusion independently of Campbell's thesis regarding the monomyth and the hero's journey. This was all happening around the early 50s, so it's not like they all had internet to share notes. Second, Moorcock takes it a bit further. If all books are the same book, and all heroes and anti-heroes are the same hero, not because of some literary convenience where he notices that all heroes inevitably share the same journey. No, he's saying that all heroes are the same hero. Think reincarnation, or the God Egg concept. The reason this nuance matters is because it's the exact interpretation that Bungie uses as well. The idea essentially being, if all books are the same book and all heroes are the same hero, then it's only a short step that readers of heroic fiction are willing to make that all readers and all writers are Odysseus, or Roland, or Gilgamesh, or Elric Melniboné. Or for our discourse, all players and programmers are the gardener, the winnower, the security officer, Master Chief, Noble Six, the Rookie, the Guardian, the Runner. The idea basically boils down that players across time, space, generations experiencing these stories are all connected to each other through this story. A peasant who read the Epic of Gilgamesh 4,000 years ago and a peasant who reads the Epic of Gilgamesh now are tied through time and space through that story, or at least that's the idea. And this is absolutely how Bungie wants you to interpret this, because a not so insignificant portion of the lore is Bungie talking to the player, or entities within the Destiny lore realizing they're part of a video game and trying to talk to the player. And would you believe that this too is taken from Elric Melniboné? The player's relationship to Bungie in this transcendental multiverse is that of John Dacker. John is the only aspect of the Eternal Champion that keeps all the memories of the Eternal Champion. And this is before I get into things that I've talked about before, like how Crow is literally just Elric Melniboné, the strange-eyed not elf prince of the Dreaming City, who wields a chaos-aligned weapon
Moon and is associated with Hawkmoon and White Crows. Oh yeah, and whose love interest is destined to die. Yeah, Crow is just Elric. Once you see these narrative parallels, once you understand the higher concept of what Bungie is doing, you also kinda start to see the toxic butterflies in the writing. What do I mean? Well, if Bungie has this top-level plan, things like retcons, writer rotation, writer ego, not sticking to the lore, or, you know, the 11th hour reboot of the end of your franchise because you canceled what was going to be the continuation of your franchise, all has both little and significant effects on how the story is going to be told. For example, if you believe you're going to continue the Destiny franchise in a new game called Project Payback, you're going to end Final Shape very differently than if you were just going to go to Frontiers. Which is probably why Final Shape got a narrative reboot. But Joker, we don't know that Project Payback would have been a third game. This is some deductive reasoning. So you expect me to believe that Bungie is going to manage Destiny 2, Marathon, and the third-person, PvE-oriented, MMO-like Destiny Project Payback. I think it's pretty safe to say that one of these has to go. And Bungie made the same calculation. In fact, the calculation they made is pretty simple. If you look at the player numbers that continue to drop, it's pretty easy to come to the conclusion that there's not a market that would support a Destiny 3. They've also probably done surveys or seen the conversation online that goes something like, but I don't want to lose my weapons and armor that are redundant every time there's a new DLC. So of course, what other conclusions would they come to? That A, not only is there not a market for Destiny 3, there's probably not a market for Destiny. And given the data at hand, it's not a really hard conclusion to come to. Now, if they ever figure out why the market has turned from Destiny and people are leaving it en masse, maybe we'd get a better game. But I fear the only conclusion that they've learned is Destiny is a dying IP and it's time to jump ship. But I digress.
And if all the seasons are just like fluff leading up to like a major expansion, then I'm not finding it interesting either. And then you just got a whole bunch of like retconning to just force stuff to fit for a season because they just need something to talk about. I don't know. I mean, what do you think about the story? I haven't been following it enough recently, but that's at the point that I left, that's kind of why I left.
Yeah, I talked about retconning earlier. Retcons can be good, but more often than not, they're lazy writing crutches. Their existence is either predicated on the fact that the writer couldn't be bothered to learn the material, or they couldn't be bothered to write around the material. Now, not all retcons are the same. Sometimes a retcon can be really, really good. Look at the entire Horus Heresy. The entire Horus Heresy is a retcon. It's amazing. Well, most of it's amazing. When you have 80 books, you get to have a few stinkers. It is what it is. However, with Destiny, that's not the case. With Destiny, a lot of the retcons tend to just be lazy writing. Writers writing themselves into corners or not paying attention to the lore or just ignoring the lore because they think they know better. And here we are with this mess that if it doesn't matter to Bungie, why should it matter to us? Editing Joker back again. Once again, Myelin then finishes out his video talking about what he's going to be doing in the future and saying goodbye. All in all, honestly, it is kind of sad to see an institution like Myelin Games exit Destiny because he has been here for 10 years. He's part of the reason I started making Destiny content. I looked up to him as a content creator, as an acquaintance, and I wish him nothing but the best on his journey to creating other pieces of content and finding what makes him happy. And I hope he finds success doing that. But hey, those are just my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Remember to like, but only if you did. Subscribe for more. Feel free to donate to my Patreon if you're feeling particularly generous. And above all else, stay frosty.